Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon. Today I'm going to be ranking the 4 rune sets from worst to best. And I know it's kind of weird because obviously every rune set is good in its own unique situation, so it's not really necessarily fair to rank them from best to worst. However, I did want to do this more just as an excuse to kind of talk to you guys more about my thoughts on the rune sets and what situations I've been liking them in and kind of like the value I see in each of them. But I am also going to rank them from worst to best because I do feel like some do feel stronger overall than others. But once again, I do want to reiterate that all of them are good in different situations. And I guess I'm just going to talk to you guys about what situations those are and also just like what makes certain rune sets stronger than others in my opinion. So let's get into it. Okay guys, so in my opinion, the worst rune set to go as your main rune set is the Inspiration rune set. And kind of the reason for this is you don't get a lot of raw stats. It's more of like unique, interesting, fun things that can be very valuable, but putting them all together and using all of them at the same time is usually not very valuable. I think these are great runes to have as your extra rune to get like one of these bonus things, you know, kind of as some type of extra thing. Like the Hextech Flash Traption has been really useful for me when I'm playing tank supports to kind of make those extra plays. So like taking it as an extra rune is very valuable, for example, or taking Demolish on a split pusher as like an extra rune as well has been pretty nice for me. But like just kind of going through them, Sweet Tooth doesn't really feel crazy valuable compared to a lot of the other runes. Again, Hextech Flash, like it's nice, but it's really only good on tank supports and junglers. Like those are really the two situations I see it being good in. Most other roles and champions aren't really going to use it. And then item crafting, I don't think is good, honestly. Like I think this is a pretty bad rune overall. So kind of going through like this first rune choices, these aren't very good overall, apart from Hex Flash, which again you can kind of just go as an extra rune. And then here, Transcendence is really good. So I think this is one of like the few runes for that you get a lot of value in. So if you're playing a champion who has really low cooldowns, I think going it is quite good. Or rather a champion who you want to lower the cooldowns on. But overall, Futures Market, again, is just like, it's a nice item, but it's usually not very practical or very valuable. And if you are playing a champion with expensive items, once again, why not just go it as an extra rune? It's just like overall, Inspiration, you really don't need these things, like all of these together. Usually your champion can only use 1 or 2 of these really well. So it's just overall, you know, it doesn't have as many raw stats as the other runes where a lot of them have damage or shielding and healing and all these things. Here, you know, if you have mana problems, like maybe if you're a mana heavy champ, you can go Transcendence, Mana Flow Band, and like Sweet Tooth. Like this would be one of the few like combinations I would go maybe on a mage, maybe. But I think there's so many better options on mages that I still wouldn't recommend this overall. So yeah, there's just not as many situations to go Inspiration in overall. It's very kind of miscellaneous runes just thrown all over the place. Some are good for turrets, some are good for mages who need mana or low cooldowns, some are good for champs who are bad in lane like Sweet Tooth or whatever. But like there's not really anything tying them all together that makes them all useful for the same type of champion. So for this reason, I really don't recommend going it as your main rune set. And compared to the other 3, I would say this is by far the weakest one. But once again, if you put it in that extra rune slot, you can take one of these extra runes and it can be quite valuable for you. So overall, that's why it's at number 4. Okay guys, so now for the 3rd strongest rune set in my opinion, this is going to be the Precision rune set. And the reason for this is I feel like a lot of the overall runes are not as strong in lane and don't help you out as much early on. So you have Brutal, which is pretty good early laning rune, but the damage is not quite so high as some of the other runes and some of the other sets. And I feel like you can get more value out of the defenses, for example, in Resolve. And then here going to Triumph or going to Gathering Storm, both of these are more runes that help you out in the later parts of the game, especially Gathering Storm, of course. So overall, like with this set, it is good for sustained fighting. It is good for bruisers to be taking this type of stuff, because like with a bruiser, I like going like something like Triumph, then you can go Coup de Grace or Last Stand, like either of those are good. And then Legend Tenacity, and like you're gonna be really like beefy. This is like really good for bruisers. I think like, these 3 runes, or again, you can switch this to Coup de Grace. It's up to you for which you prefer. But overall, I mean, again, you could go Gathering Storm on a scaling mage. Maybe if you're playing a scaling mage into tanks, you can go for like these 3 runes, right? Like Gathering Storm, Giant Slayer, and Legend Tenacity. And this is going to be like another good combo. But I just feel like you can get more value out of other stuff. Like this specifically can be really good for the scaling on your champion. But once again, there's just like less early game strength in these. You don't really get as much value out of these runes because they're like percentage based on health. And this, of course, Giant Slayer, they have to get more health. Gathering Storm, Scaling, Triumph, you don't get a ton of value early game. And then the legend runes are all scaling, like they all obviously, you know, get better as you take down more stuff. So for that reason, like the early game is not as strong in these rune sets. So if you're playing a champion who either already gets through lane well, and you just want to, like, you know, have that extra strength in the later parts of the game, then this can be a good rune set. And again, like if you need that Giant Slayer into tank, so you can take that and you can take this rune set instead. And then you combo that with like Brutal and you're still going to be doing pretty well in the early game. And then legend runes in general, I'm not a fan of. But the Alacrity does feel nice. I've been running it on Camille because I've been going this rune set on Camille. And then Tenacity obviously is going to be pretty helpful because you don't have much Tenacity in the game anymore. So if you are into really heavy CC comps, I do recommend taking Legend Tenacity if you can. It's definitely nice to squeeze into your build. And then Legend Bloodline doesn't feel super valuable to me because oftentimes the things that you would want Omnivamp on are ADCs. But now the new Lifesteal boots are quite useful to buy already. So a lot of times I'd rather just buy those on an ADC, and you could buy both. But I feel like you don't really necessarily always need that. I feel like just the amount that you get from the lifesteal boots is not too bad. It's going to still help you avoid some poke and kind of heal up. So overall, Legend Bloodline I've not been a fan of. But once again, I mean, I think the Precision Rune Tree is not bad. I think it's much stronger than, for example, Inspiration. But again, the early game is kind of why I'm putting it here. So yeah, let's get into number 2. Okay guys, so deciding between number 1 and 2 was quite difficult for me, but overall I've decided that I think that Resolve is the second best rune tree overall. And the reason for this is because I feel like you can get a lot of value from the defenses. Earlier today I was playing Jace into Renekton, and normally what happens in this matchup is around level 3, Renekton builds up his rage bar, he flashes on you, stuns you, ignites you, and he pretty much does like 60 or 70% of your HP. And I ran these 3 runes that you see here, Nullifying Orb, Bone Plating, and Perseverance, and this literally allowed me to just like block, I don't know, a ridiculous amount of his damage. I mean, I have the Nullifying Orb if I get low, I have Bone Plating for blocking his initial burst, and then if he CCs me, which his second ability does CC, I get the Tenacity plus the Perseverance armor. So like overall, I think avoiding burst damage, you can go Resolve on a lot of different champions, whether it's squishy champions, whether it's you're playing a tank and do like another tank matchup. Just in general, avoiding burst with like these three runes really. And if you do have PC, you can switch this to Courage of the Colossus instead of Nullifying Orb. I think you can avoid a lot of overall damage. Is just very useful. And then not only that, but if you're playing in a champ or support, you end up going Revitalize, Font of Life, and then you can go Bone Plating or Second Wind depending on the matchup, or even Loyalty. I mean, like, not only do you have the, you know, that avoiding the burst and the tankiness from this rune set, but you also have the supportive element for it when you're playing an enchant or champion or something like that. You can get a lot of value from Font of Life, which was literally before a Keystone rune, and they moved it down to one of these types of runes. So overall, pretty versatile. It's really helpful into hard matchups. Once again, I mean, you can take Second Wind into any type of matchup where, you know, they're poking you a lot, for example. Revitalize feels really nuts because honestly, I think enchanters are broken in this meta. Soraka's really insane. Nami's good. Lulu, Yumi, Karma. So many are just so good. So overall, like for those reasons, I just feel like, you know, this rune set is just really insane. There's so much versatility in it. There's so much different things you can do. The defenses are really good, but the issues do come, obviously, you don't get that early like damage. So if you're playing a heavy damage champion, you're not going to get much value in that sense, which is why I do have it at number 2, even though it is extremely strong in my opinion. And that of course means that lastly, guys, we have the Domination rune tree. And what makes this one so strong is really like you have so much versatility in terms of how you want your damage. You want the poke from Scorch, you want kind of that, you know, dashing, the really value from assassins on sudden impact. They're just like the mark of the week again. That helps with assassins. You mark someone with whatever ability, and then you just do all your damage to them right after. Cheap shot, overall not the strongest, but if you do have CC, you can get some value out of it. And then empowered attack's not bad too for just getting that extra early poke in lane. And then here, this is kind of where it is a little bit weaker in my opinion. The third Domination rune set, or like these 3 runes, Eyeball Collector, Ingenious Hunter, and Zombie Ward, aren't that good. Apart from Zombie Ward, actually. Zombie Ward, if you just simply take Control Ward instead of regular Ward, is going to help you get this stacked up quite fast. So like pretty much always, honestly, I think Zombie Ward is what you're going to want to take. Eyeball Collector is such a small amount of AD and AP that I don't recommend it. Definitely Zombie Ward is going to be value. It's not only going to provide you vision, obviously with that Zombie Ward, but giving that extra AD or AP is super valuable for sure. overall on many champion, really any champion, which I feel is quite good. So I'd say you're always going to want to go zombie ward in that third slot, and then you have a lot of versatility in these other slots. But what really makes it OP in my opinion is these assassins. Like if you guys seen like Kha'Zix is running rampant with these runes. Like I think Mark of the Week sudden impact on Kha'Zix is really insane. There's just a lot of different combinations you can go, but it really helps your early game too. The damage is super strong from this rune set, which is why I do have it at number 1. But I was struggling between this one again and going with the Resolve tree at number 1. They're both super strong, and it does feel to an extent like the Resolve tree is quite good into the Domination tree. Like if you're laning against it, for example, because you can obviously block out a lot of that damage and heal it up. I've not done the math to kind of see which you're getting more damage from, if you're getting more damage from Domination or more like defenses from Resolve, but I do feel like the damage here has made a lot of assassin champions really OP. I've been running it on Jace. The damage feels really good on Jace, and like if I compare it to the precision tree, for example, it just feels like the early game damage I don't really feel much of a difference, and it doesn't, not until the later parts of the game where precision feels strong. But with the Domination tree, you can use your early game strength from this rune set to kind of get that extra gold and make your late game stronger anyways, just because you're snowballing the lane or the game harder. That is why overall I have Domination at number 1. So yeah, that's gonna be it for the video. Let me know what you guys think about the new runes, which rune set's your favorite on what type of champs. Once again, I know like obviously every rune set's good in different situations, so ranking them is a little weird, and it's more just I wanted to talk about the rune sets and when I was kind of going them. So let me know your guys' thoughts on the rune sets and when you think what's strong. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. I hope you enjoyed the video.